Morning routines, the best way to set yourself up for clarity. I have trialed so many, I've not been able to be consistent at so many, and it all started for me when I was suicidal, when I was depressed and I couldn't get out of bed. I turned on YouTube and I started watching Impact Theory, and I think it was Jim Quick. I think he calls himself the brain doctor. Anyway, he was talking about morning routines. So I started to play with it. I started to be like, well, what can I use from there? Does that work? No, it doesn't work. Can I use that? Yeah, I'll use that. Does that work? Does it not work? And the problem that people make is they have one routine and they stick to it the whole time. Now, when it comes to a routine, you have to break it down. First of all, you have to ask yourself, what do you want from this routine? So whenever, say for example, someone comes to me with depression, right? They can't even get out of bed. So there's no point giving them an hour meditation or an hour reading when their brain is already too overloaded. So we have to stack wins. So someone that might be suffering with depression, for the first part of their routine, you just need to stack wins. So just 4 to 5 simple things to be able to get them out of bed. For example, make their bed. Then a journal. But in the journal, have 4 or 5 different sections that they actually have to fill out. And then you might give them 1 page of a book to read. A cold shower, go to the gym, whatever it is. I had a client and all we wanted to do was just get him to make his bed, leave the house, take the dog for a 5-minute walk on day 1, a 10-minute walk on day 2. And I wanted him to just say hello to people. 1 person say hello, 2 persons say hello, 3 persons say hello. And then you can start to make them a little bit more complex and a little bit more aligned. So what you want to get out of it, if you're, again, like I said, if you're in a bad headspace, you want to be able to just stack wins. So it's about creating that little bit of a self-esteem. Remember, your brain has been beating you up for so long, telling you you're no good. You need to be able to start getting that part of your brain, I think it's called the enigma. It needs to start growing when you start doing uncomfortable things. So that's what you want to get from it. Now, why are you doing it? Why are you actually doing this routine? Are you doing it because you need it? Are you doing it because you've seen something online? Are you doing it because other people are doing it? You need to make sure you don't get stuck in the self-development trap that you start doing other things because you have seen other people do it. You might not even need that in that moment. You might be in a season where your energy levels are sky high, right? Everything is going perfectly for you. You might actually just be able to be a little bit more advanced, wake up, 20 minutes in silence, visualize, get yourself into that emotional state, and then attack your work. Remember, when your mind is silent, you hear God's voice the loudest, which means your intuition will come in. I'm at that stage. I'm in a stage in my life where I just need to get outside, sun or air on my eyes, read a chapter of the book just to get my consciousness activated. I do read the Bible and listen to worship music, and then I journal, and then I'm straight into work because I'm in a peaceful state. I've done my visualization. I feel amazing. Now, we're all going to have different ways to be able to start the day. So what, why, and what outcome do you want? Okay, a lot of my clients, when they first come to me, it's just about getting them feeling proud about themselves. It's just about having some structure to start the day before they go into work or before they open up the laptop. They're in that mentality of the future version of them. That is all we want to create. For me, my outcome is always my emotional state. How do I feel emotionally? Up top, strong as anything in this season. How's my body feel? Is my body relaxed? Am I joyful? Am I happy? Am I grateful to be able to just sit down and be present with the world? Am I okay to just relax? The reason I'm doing this video is because a client yesterday, I had a call with him and I was like, how you doing? You know, he didn't have a call last week. It was like, yeah, just really busy. Everything's really going well. I'm like, all right. Is that the truth? Oh, well, you know, I do actually feel a little bit like everything's good. I said, but how do you feel? I said, do you feel like you're waiting for everything to happen? Like you've got all of these massive contracts, but you're just waiting for them to land. And he was like, yeah. I was like, how's your energy? Are you doing your morning routine where you're waking up and you're just, you know that I've given you stuff to do and you're just ticking the boxes to say that you've done it, getting over as quick as you possibly can? And then you're getting in the van on the way to work and you're just in complete lack. You're not even getting the outcome that you want. You're not even focusing on the why. You're not even focusing on the what. And this is what happens when life starts to go a little bit well, or we start to step into that new state of consciousness, right? We tend to fall back into default. We tend to fall back into the autopilot version of us that goes into survival mode. You want to settle that nervous system. You want to start being able to have your mornings where you're just at peace. The body's relaxed. All of the tension, all of the stress, all of the built up, anger that you might be storing, or, your cortisol's at its highest first thing in the morning when you wake up, that's going to be pinging. So are you going for your phone because you need to get that hit? Now, I'll give you my routine I'm currently doing at the moment. This will help you guaranteed. Sleep better, start your day with more clarity. So for me, first thing I do when I wake up is I just make the bed, all right? The reason I do that is, one, because it stacks the win, and two, I'm just look at my bed. I'm actually so blessed to have one when some kids all over the world simply don't have one. Everything I do is about my emotional state, okay? So I make the bed, cold shower. Reason I have a cold shower is because I am a needy boy in the morning. I'll either want to go on the phone and get a hit of dopamine, or I want to be able to have a coffee straight away. But when I get in that cold shower, it gives me that hit. It gives me exactly what I need. The next thing I do is I make sure that I get dressed well, okay? I always make sure that, I've done a complete design of who I am and what I want to be to every single detail. I always want to make sure I feel good in my clothes. I always want to make sure that when I'm walking down to that desk, I feel good. Arms might be a little bit pumped, all right? But ultimately, I feel good. I always have a little bit of the self-care in the morning, tidy the beard up. I just want to make sure that I just keep that self-respect to myself. Now, what I do then, as much as I want to check my messages, as much as I want to go on there and just start working straight away, because I absolutely love work, I don't do that. I go outside, I get air on my eyes, and I always make sure that I have at least 600 milliliters of water with some electrolytes, okay? Then I always connect with nature. A lot of people think this is woo-woo, but my nervous system hasn't been this calm in years since I've started doing this. I really do think I've actually finally found the perfect morning that starts my day off. I read a chapter of a book. The reason I read a chapter is because I want to get my brain working in a healthy manner. Remember, only ever read the book that actually can help you in life. For example, if you're struggling with your thoughts and controlling situations, read the Surrender Experiment. Whatever you learn in the Surrender Experiment in the book, you then implement that into your life. There's no point reading the 5 a.m. club if you're getting up at 5 a.m. It's just absolutely pointless. You want to make sure that you're reading something that aligns with you in that season. So once I've read a chapter of a book, I come in, I put on worship music, I get my Bible out, all right, and I have my coffee, and I sit down and I feel amazing. Now, once I've done all of this, okay, it probably takes up to about an hour, all right, but luckily I've designed a life where an hour to me is doable. You can do this in a short amount of time. I then sit in silence. My brain has consumed a beautiful bit of information. I sit in silence and I just let my whole body go calm. I let all the thoughts go crazy. I let everything come at me. And I really do want to sit there, and I do really want to just let all of the emotions come to the surface. I don't suppress them. And then you go into pure awareness. Once I've dropped into awareness, I then just imagine my mum telling me, whatever my goal might be. Say, for example, I want to have a certain amount of clients coming this month. My mum will then feed that back to me that, well done, so proud of you for achieving X, Y, and Z. I then just repeat a sentence back to her, just like I knew I could do it. And I repeat that over and over and over and over again. And then what happens is that brings me into an emotional state. And then I know that I'm in the state of consciousness that I want to be able to be in. Now, there's a verse in the Bible, I think it's Habakkuk 3:4, about having a vision for life. We must have a vision. You must have the excitement of every single time you wake up, you have something to go and work towards. You might be in a job that you kind of like, you kind of hate. This is my coffee. Hello. Also, coffee and a protein shaker Game changer. Game changer. Get that down. Right. So what you want to be able to focus on is, I've lost my train of thought there. What was I talking about? Having a vision, having something. You might not have a job that you like waking up to. That's okay. That is okay. Redesign yourself. What does the version of you in your future life look like? How does he dress? How does he smell? What does his house look like? What hobbies does he have? What's his physique look like? How's your, do you have a tan? Do you have nice teeth? How much do you want to make each month? Are you one of these all-round men that you've built where you have a great sense of faith, you have a great sense of discipline, you kickbox, you go to the gym, you're a great person to be around, you have an enthusiastic energy. Who are you? What do you want to become? Because I find that so many men wake up the same, do the same, go to bed the same, and you're going to get the same outcome. I think as men, we have to reinvent ourselves pretty much probably every 90 days. Are you improving every 90 days? It's April now. Have you improved since January? Have you become a better person? Do you look at the world differently? Are you achieving the things you want to be able to achieve? Where are you at? Because ultimately, if we don't start to change who we are, and we don't start to develop as a human being different types of information, you're just going to live in a state of comparison. One of the Stoics, who was it? I think it was Seneca, about you suffer more in your imagination than you do in real life. Wow. How true is that? But I find that suffering only occurs when you're not showing up for yourself. And this is why I have these mornings where I can sit down, I can make sure that I spend time to myself. I have no interest in any of you that try and slate a morning routine or try and talk down on that. It saved thousands of people that I've worked with lives because it saved my life. I used to wake up when I hang off the back of a door, and a morning routine got me doing something for myself, even something small like putting my clothes away. When you're depressed and down, you want to take on the world, but you can't even get out of bed. So you need these little things, no matter how pathetic they might be, they all stack up. They're all wins that stack up, right? So we've just seen Alex Hormozi sit down with Tony Robbins, and I never really talk about anyone else because I don't care, but this is just a prime example. I put this video on LinkedIn the other day about a morning routine, and everyone just started being so negative on it. And it's like, but you're all worshipping someone that has just sat down and has hundreds of millions of pounds in the bank, but he's miserable. Maybe waking up and making your bed would bring you that slight bit of gratitude and that slight bit of happiness. And it might not be that actual, might not be that specific task that you've done, but as soon as you feel that sense of gratitude, it could trigger something else in your brain to be like, do you know what? Before you have food, like, man, I'm so grateful for this food. I'm so grateful for the water. I'm so grateful for my house. And you start to bring happiness into play. Then you can go into there's a verse in the Bible, Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, and all will be added onto you. Then you can start diving into the fact of, another verse for that is, a man can receive, no. What's the verse? To the man who has, more will be given, and to the man who doesn't, more will be taken away. Obviously, I'm just going off the top of my head. Don't quote me word for word on that. But even the Bible says, focus on what you do have, and more will be given. It's pretty much what they say about, be grateful for this, and more will come. Nothing new will come into your life unless you're grateful for what you already have. So if this is you right now, take any of the tips that I've just given you for the morning routine, implement it into your life. And just start doing more for yourself. If you're struggling and you're really in pain at the moment, don't try and overwhelm yourself. Like I said before, I just told my client to make his bed, go do a little bit of a journal, go for a walk, say hello to 3 or 4 people, and come back home. Done. Then now all of a sudden he was off his antidepressants in 22 weeks. You have to start small and then start to compound with it. Because you'll probably identify yourself as someone that isn't disciplined. Discipline might not be your problem. You just might consciously self-sabotage after 3 or 4 days of progress and go back into default mode because you don't actually trust yourself to stay consistent with it. You see, we only see the world through our eyes that we're used to. We have a certain lens that we see through. It's not until you actually start taking a step back and slowing down do you realize that you have more potential than you possibly know, but there's so much more information out there that you do need to consume. But just make sure it's the right information and you take the right actions. The reason why people don't make progress is because they start something, don't see immediate effects of it. You can get instant gratification from your phone. Oh, here it is, from your phone. This is the portal of problems, all right? And then all of a sudden, the boring stuff takes a back seat because you can just get an unnatural amount of dopamine coming to you, which means it's so easy to fall back into comfort. Start your mornings perfectly and your whole day will change. You'll be thinking clearer. Turn left here, turn right here, send that email to that person, film that video, you know, be nicer to the people around you, and then there might be a conversation that starts that leads to an idea that you need to know the answer. But when you wake up and your whole brain is just chaos from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep, God can't speak to you. That idea that you're waiting for can't drop in because your mind is elsewhere. Everything is just 100 miles an hour, scatty, chaos, all right? And it's not your fault, all right? You've been so indulged in who you are and programming for so long that when it comes to actually waking up and living life a little bit differently, of course you're not going to be able to do everything every single day and stick to everything every single day. You know, it's better to have 4 or 5 good mornings and 3 that are a little bit off, and you know, then you can start to have a look and have a tracker as to why your day went a certain way, and then you can finally start to finesse it. It took me years to find the perfect morning to be able to get me into a great headspace where there's no anxiety, where there's no stress, where there's no worry, where I'm just in a nice flow. And some mornings you have to mix it up. Some mornings you might start with something and then end with something, and then whatever you ended with, you might start with, all right? There's a lot out there, but most importantly, just don't let it overwhelm you. Says the guy that's just done a 16-minute video for you to be able to do it, and there's not much structure to it. I don't have notes to these. Give it a go. If you need anything, comment. I'll get back to you with any of the information. But how you'll start your mornings is going to dictate how your day is going to go. Tomorrow morning, I will do an evening routine video as well, which I find perfect for me to get a good, deep 8 hours sleep. I can never sleep. I was saying it like not even long ago. I would always go to sleep and wake up 3 or 4 times, whereas now I might wake up once, but I'm in the deepest sleep ever. And I truly believe it's from how I started my morning, but most importantly, what I've done in the evening, which then means I perform so much better the next day. My dopamine levels are down to baseline, which means when I sit at the computer, I'm actually itching to sit at the computer and do work. I actually can sit there for about 8 to 10 hours, all right, and I can just focus on the task and I can get it done, which is amazing. Before, attention span's fried and you've got absolutely no chance. Big love, enjoy this, Melia movement, baby. Oosh.